Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here in live studios in the Haven. Hare Krishna, everyone. We hope that your holiday season is going nicely and all of the marathon spirit and festivals and all that is going on nicely in all of your lives. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura gave this poetic glorification of the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, for if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage. Because after the flood has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay. Lord Chaitanya used to visit Haridāsa Ṭhākura every day. And we're reading from Antya-līlā, chapter 3, the Glories of Haridāsa Ṭhākura. And once when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Haridāsa Ṭhākura, he was feeling an anxiety and expressed that anxiety to Haridāsa Ṭhākura, how the conditioned souls will be delivered in this Kali Yuga. It's so degraded. Haridāsa Ṭhākura is explained to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that actually the holy name will deliver them all. That you have brought the holy name, and it will deliver them all. And this is where we start. In the middle of this conversation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to speak further to Haridāsa Ṭhākura. Text 66. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this from Haridāsa Ṭhākura, the happiness within his heart increased. But as a matter of course, he still inquired further. 67. On this earth, there are many living entities, the Lord said, some moving and some not moving. What will happen to the trees, plants, insects, and other living entities? How will they be delivered from material bondage? 68. Haridāsa Ṭhākura replied, My dear Lord, the deliverance of all moving and non-moving living entities takes place only by your mercy. You have already granted this mercy and delivered them. 69. You have loudly chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, and everyone, moving or non-moving, or not moving, has benefited by hearing it. Text 70. My Lord, the moving entities who have heard your loud Sankirtan have already been delivered from bondage to the material world. And after the non-moving living entities like trees hear it, there is an echo. 71. Actually, however, it is not an echo. It is the kirtan of the non-moving living entities. All this, although inconceivable, is possible by your mercy. 72. When loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is performed all over the world by those who follow in your footsteps, all living entities, moving and non-moving, dance in ecstatic, devotional love. 73. My dear Lord, all the incidents that took place while you were going to Vrindavan through the forest known as Jarikanda have been related to me by your servant Balabhadra Bhattacharya. When your devotee Vasudev Datta submitted his plea at your lotus feet for the deliverance of all living entities, you accepted that request. My dear Lord, you have accepted the form of a devotee just to deliver all the fallen souls of this world. 76. You have preached the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and in this way freed all moving and non-moving living entities from material bondage. 77. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, if all living entities are liberated, the entire universe will be devoid of living beings. 78, 79. Haridāsa said, my Lord, as long as you are situated within the material world, you will send to the spiritual sky all developed moving and non-moving living entities in different species. Then again, you will awaken the living entities who are not yet developed and engage them in activities. 80. In this way, all moving and non-moving living entities will come into existence, and the entire universe will be filled as it was previously. Purport. While we are preaching, opposing elements sometimes argue. If all living entities were delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, what would happen then? What would happen then? The universe would be devoid of living entities. In answer to this, we may say that in a prison there are many prisoners, but if one thinks that the prison would be empty if all the prisoners adopted good behavior, he is incorrect. Even if all the prisoners within a jail are freed, other criminals will fill it again. A prison will never be vacant, for there are many prospective criminals who will fill the prison cells, even if the present criminals are freed by the government. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 13.22, Karanam Gunasangosya Sadasad Joni Janmasu. Because of the living entity's association with material nature, he meets with good and evil among various species. There are many unmanifested living entities covered by the modes of ignorance who will gradually come to the mode of passion. Most of them will become criminals because of their fruitive activities and again fill the prison. 81. Previously, when Lord Ramachandra left this world, he took with them all the living entities of Ayodhya. Then he filled Ayodhya again with other living entities. 82. My dear Lord, you have set a plan in motion by descending to the material world, but no one can understand how you are acting. 83. Formerly, when Lord Krishna descended in Vrindavan, he freed all living entities in the universe from material existence in the same way. Krishna, the unborn, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Master of all masters of mystic power, delivers all living entities, moving and non-moving. Nothing is astonishing in the activities of the Lord. Purport. This is a quotation from Śrīmad Bhagavatam 10:29-16. Text 85. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead may be seen, glorified, or remembered with an attitude of envy, he nevertheless awards the most confidential liberation, which is rarely achieved by the demigods and demons. What then can be said of those who are already fully engaged in devotional service to the Lord? Purport. This is a quotation from the Vishnu Purana, 4:15-17. Text 86. By descending as an incarnation at Navadvip, you, just like Krishna, have already delivered all the living entities of the universe. Text 87. One may say that he understands the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He may know whatever he may know, but as far as I am concerned, this is my conclusion. 88. My dear Lord, your pastimes are just like an ocean of nectar. It is not possible for me to conceive how great that ocean is, or even to understand a drop of it. 89. Hearing all this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was astonished. These are actually my confidential pastimes, he thought. How could Haridāsa have understood them? 90. Greatly satisfied by the statements of Haridāsa Ṭhākura, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him. Outwardly, however, he avoided further discussions of these matters. Text 91. This is a characteristic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he wants to cover his opulence, he cannot do so before his devotees. This is well known to everyone. O my Lord, everything within material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover such characteristics by your own energy, but nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances. Purport. This is a verse from the Stotra Ratna 13 of Yamunacharya. Text 93. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to his personal devotees and began speaking about Haridāsa Ṭhākura's transcendental qualities as if he had hundreds of mouths. 94. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu derives great pleasure from glorifying his devotees, and among the devotees, Haridāsa Ṭhākura is the foremost. 95. The transcendental qualities of Haridāsa Ṭhākura are innumerable and unfathomable. One may describe a portion of them, but to count them all is impossible. In the Chaitanya Mangal, Srila Vrindavan Das Ṭhākura has described the attributes of Haridāsa Ṭhākura to some extent. 97. No one can describe all the qualities of Haridāsa Ṭhākura. One may say something about them just to purify himself. 98. O devotees of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, please hear something about the qualities of Haridāsa Ṭhākura that Śrīla Vrindavan Das Ṭhākura has not described in detail. After leaving his home, Haridāsa Ṭhākura stayed for some time in the forest of Benapur. Haridāsa Ṭhākura constructed a cottage in a solitary forest. There he planted a tulsi plant, and in front of the tulsi he would chant the holy name of the Lord 300,000 times daily. He chanted throughout the entire day and night. In case none of you haven't calculated, 300,000 names is 192 rounds. Hare Krishna. Purport. The village of Benapur is situated in the district of Yashohara, Jeshore, which is now in Bangladesh. Benapur is near the Banagano station, which is at the border of Bangladesh and may be reached by the Eastern Railway from Shelda station in Calcutta. Haridāsa Ṭhākura, being the Acharya of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is called Namacharya Haridāsa Ṭhākura. From his personal example, we can understand that chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and becoming highly elevated in Krishna consciousness is very simple. Without difficulty, one can sit down anywhere, especially on the bank of the Ganges, Yamuna, or any other sacred river. Devise a sitting place or cottage, plant a tulsi tree, and before the tulsi, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra undisturbed. Haridāsa Ṭhākura used to chant the holy name on his beads 300,000 times daily. Throughout the entire day and night, he would chant the 16 names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. One should not, however, imitate Haridāsa Ṭhākura, for no one else can chant the holy name 300,000 times a day. Such chanting is for the Mukta Purusha, or liberated soul. We can follow his example, however, by chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on beads every day and offering respect to the tulsi plant. This is not at all difficult for anyone, and the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with a vow before the tulsi plant has such great spiritual potency that simply by doing this, one can become spiritually strong. Therefore, we request the members of the Hare Krishna movement to follow Haridāsa Ṭhākura's example rigidly. Chanting 16 rounds does not take much time, nor is offering respects to the tulsi plant difficult. The process has immense spiritual potency. One should not miss this opportunity. Text 101. For his bodily maintenance, he would go to a Brahmana's house and beg some food. He was spiritually so influential that all the neighboring people worshipped him. Purport. In the days of Haridāsa Ṭhākura, all the Brahmanas worshipped Narayana in the form of the Shalagram Śrīla. Therefore, begging from a Brahmana's house meant taking Krishna Prasadam, which is transcendental, nirguna. If we take food from the houses of others, such as karmis, we shall have to share the qualities of those from whom we take alms. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took prasadam in the houses of Vaishnavas. This is the general process. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement are advised not to take food from anywhere but a Vaishnava's or Brahmana's house where deity worship is performed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Vishayeda anakoile dushtahaya mana. If a devotee takes alms or food from the house of a karmi who is simply interested in money, his mind will become unclean. We must always remember that a devotee's life is one of vairagya, vidya, or renunciation and knowledge. Therefore, all devotees are warned not to live unnecessarily luxurious lives at the cost of others. Grihastas living within the jurisdiction of the temple must be especially careful not to imitate karmis by acquiring opulent clothing, food, and conveyances. As far as possible, these should be avoided. A member of the temple, whether grihasta, brahmachari, or sannyasi, must practice a life of renunciation, following in the footsteps of Haridāsa Ṭhākura and the 6 Goswamis. Otherwise, because Maya is very strong, at any time one may become a victim of Maya and fall down from spiritual life. 102. A landholder named Ramachandra Khan was the zamindar in that district. He was envious of Vaishnavas and was therefore a great atheist. Unable to tolerate that such respect was being offered to Haridāsa Ṭhākura, Ramachandra Khan planned in various ways to dishonor him. By no means could he find any fault in the character of Haridāsa Ṭhākura. Therefore he called for local prostitutes and began a plan to discredit His Holiness. Purport. This is typical of atheistic men, but even among so-called religionists, sadhus, mendicants, sannyasis, and brahmacharis, there are many enemies of the Krishna consciousness movement who always try to find faults in it, not considering that the movement is spreading automatically by the grace of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted it spread all over the world, in every town and village. We are trying to fulfill the Lord's desire, and our attempt has become fairly successful. But the enemies of this movement unnecessarily try to find faults in it, exactly like the old rascal Ramachandra Khan, who opposed Haridāsa Ṭhākura. Prabhupada ki jai. Ramachandra Khan said to the prostitutes, "There is a mendicant named Haridāsa Ṭhākura. All of you devise a way to deviate him from his vows of austerity." Purport. Devotional service is the path of vairagya vidya, renunciation and knowledge. Haridāsa Ṭhākura was following this path, but Ramachandra Khan planned to induce him to break his vows. Renunciation means renunciation of sensual pleasure, especially the pleasure of sex. Therefore a brahmachari, sannyasi, or vanaprastha is strictly prohibited from having relationships with women. Haridāsa Ṭhākura was strictly renounced, and thus Ramachandra Khan called for prostitutes, because prostitutes know how to break a man's vow of celibacy by their feminine influence, and thus pollute a mendicant or a person engaged in devotional life. It was impossible for Ramachandra Khan to induce any other women to break Haridāsa Ṭhākura's vow, and therefore he called for prostitutes. Free mingling with women has never been possible in India, but for one who wanted to associate with society girls, they were available in a district of prostitutes. There were prostitutes in human society even in Lord Krishna's time, for it is said that the prostitutes of Dwarka city came forth to receive the Lord. Although they were prostitutes, they were also devotees of Krishna. Text 106. Among the prostitutes, one attractive young girl was selected. I shall attract the mind of Haridāsa Ṭhākura, she promised, within 3 days. 107. Ramachandra Khan said to the prostitute, my constable will go with you, so that as soon as he sees you with Haridāsa Ṭhākura, immediately he will arrest him and bring both of you to me. 108. The prostitute replied, first let me have union with him once, then the second time I shall take your constable with me to arrest him. 109. At night the prostitute, after dressing herself most attractively, went to the cottage of Haridāsa Ṭhākura with great jubilation. 110. After offering obeisances to the tulsi plant, she went to the door of Haridāsa Ṭhākura, offered him obeisances, and stood there. Exposing part of her body to his view, she sat down on the threshold of the door and spoke to him in very sweet words. 112. My dear Ṭhākura, O great preacher, great devotee, you are so beautifully built, and your youth is just beginning. Who is the woman who could control her mind after seeing you? 113. I am eager to be united with you. My mind is greedy for this. If I don't obtain you, I shall not be able to keep my body and soul together. 14 and 15. Haridāsa Ṭhākura replied, I shall accept you without fail, but you will have to wait until I have finished chanting my regular rounds on my beads. Until that time, please sit and listen to the chanting of the holy name. As soon as I am finished, I shall fulfill your desire. 116. Hearing this, the prostitute remained sitting there while Haridāsa Ṭhākura chanted on his beads until the light of morning appeared. Hare Krishna. Oops. 117. When she saw that it was morning, the prostitute stood up and left. Coming before Ramachandra Khan, she informed him of all the news. Today Haridāsa Ṭhākura has promised to enjoy with me. Tomorrow, certainly, I shall have union with him. Text 119. The next night, when the prostitute came again, Haridāsa Ṭhākura gave her many assurances. Last night you were disappointed. Please excuse my offense. I shall certainly accept you. Please sit down and hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra until my regular chanting is finished. Then your desire will surely be fulfilled. 122. After offering her obeisances to the tulsi plant and Haridāsa Ṭhākura, she sat down at the door. Hearing Haridāsa Ṭhākura chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, she also chanted, O my Lord Hari, O my Lord Hari. Purport. Herein one can clearly see how a Vaishnava delivers a fallen soul by a transcendental trick. The prostitute came to pollute Haridāsa Ṭhākura, but he took it as his duty to deliver the prostitute. As clearly demonstrated here, the process of deliverance is very simple. With faith and reverence, the prostitute associated with Haridāsa Ṭhākura, who personally treated her material disease by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Although the prostitute had an ulterior motive, somehow or other she got the association of a Vaishnava and satisfied him by occasionally chanting in imitation, "O my Lord Hari, O my Lord Hari." The conclusion is that associating with a Vaishnava, chanting the holy name of the Lord, and offering obeisances to the Tulsi plant or a Vaishnava will all lead one to become a transcendental devotee who is completely cleansed of all material contamination. 123. When the night came to an end, the prostitute was restless. Seeing this, Haridāsa Ṭhākura spoke to her as follows: "I have vowed to chant 10 million names in a month. I have taken this vow, but now it is nearing its end." Purport: if one regularly chants 333,333 names daily for a month, 30 days, he then chants 10 more names, he will thus chant 10 million names. In this way, a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such worship is called yajna. Yagyai sankirtana prayar, yajantis hi sumeda saha. Those whose intelligence is brilliant accept this Harinam yajna, the yajna of chanting the holy name of the Lord. By performing this yajna, one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus attains perfection in spiritual life. According to external vision, Haridāsa Ṭhākura belonged to a Muslim family. Nevertheless, because he engaged himself in performing the yajna of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he became a regularly initiated Brahmana. As stated in Śrīmad Bhagavatam 3:33-6, Yan Namadeya Shavananu Kirtanad Yak Pravanad Yat Smaranad Api Kvachit Shwadho Sisadya Savanaya Kalpate Kutak Punaste Bhagavan Nudarshanat. Even if a devotee comes from a family of dog-eaters, if he surrenders to the personality of Godhead, he immediately becomes a qualified Brahmana and is immediately fit to perform yajna, whereas a person born in a family of Brahmanas has to wait until completing the reformatory processes before he may be called Sangskrita, purified. It is further said in Śrīmad Bhagavatam 12:1-40. Asangskrita kriya hina rajasa tamasavritaha prajaste bhakshayishanti mlecha ranjay rupinaha. In the age of Kali, mlechas, or low-born people who have not undergone the purifying process of samskara, who do not know how to apply that process in actual life, and who are covered by the modes of passion and ignorance, will take the posts of administrators. They will devour the citizens with their atheistic activities. A person who is not purified by the prescribed process of samskara is called asangskrita. But if one remains kriya hina, even after being purified by initiation, in other words, if one fails to actually apply the principles of purity in his life, he remains an unpurified mlecha or yavana. On the other hand, we find that Haridāsa Ṭhākura, although born in a mlecha or yavana family, became namacharya Haridāsa Ṭhākura because he performed the nama yajna a minimum of 300,000 times every day. Herein we find that Haridāsa Ṭhākura strictly followed his regulated principle of chanting 300,000 names. Thus, when the prostitute became restless, he informed her that first he had to finish his chanting, and then he would be able to satisfy her. Although Haridāsa Ṭhākura chanted the holy name of the Lord for 3 nights continuously and gave the prostitute a chance to hear them. Thus she became purified, as will be seen in the following verses. I thought that today I would be able to finish my performance of yajna, my chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. I tried my best to chant the holy name all night, but I still did not finish. Tomorrow I will surely finish, and my vow will be fulfilled. Then it will be possible for me to enjoy with you in full freedom. Purport. Haridāsa Ṭhākura never wanted to enjoy the prostitute, but he tricked her to deliver her by giving her a chance to hear the holy name of the Lord while he chanted. Pure devotees chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and simply by hearing this chanting from a purified, transcendental person, one is purified of all sinful activities, no matter how low-born or fallen one may be. As soon as one is thus completely free from the reactions of sinful activities, he is eligible to render devotional service to the Lord. This is the process for engaging the fallen souls in devotional service. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:28, Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandvo mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridhavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the duality of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. 127. The prostitute returned to Ramachandra Khan and informed him of what had happened. The next day she came earlier, at the beginning of the evening, and stayed with Haridāsa Ṭhākura. After offering obeisances to the tulsi plant and Haridāsa Ṭhākura, she sat down on the threshold of the room. Thus she began to hear Haridāsa Ṭhākura's chanting, and she also personally chanted Hari, Hari, the holy name of the Lord. Today it will be possible for me to finish my chanting, Haridāsa Ṭhākura informed her. Then I shall satisfy all your desires. Text 120. The night ended while Haridāsa Ṭhākura was chanting, but by his association, the mind of the prostitute had changed. The prostitute, now purified, fell at the lotus feet of Haridāsa Ṭhākura and confessed that Ramachandra Khan had appointed her to pollute him. Because I have taken the profession of a prostitute, she said, I have performed unlimited sinful acts. My Lord, be merciful to me. Deliver my fallen soul. Haridāsa Ṭhākura ki jai. Haridāsa Ṭhākura replied, I know everything about the conspiracy of Ramachandra Khan. He is nothing but an ignorant fool. Therefore his activities do not make me feel unhappy. On the very day Ramachandra Khan was planning to intrigue against me, I would have left this place immediately. But because you came to me, I stayed here for 3 days to deliver you. The prostitute replied, kindly act as my spiritual master. Instruct me in my duty by which I can get relief from material existence. Haridāsa Ṭhākura replied, immediately go home and distribute to the brahmanas whatever property you have. Then come back to this room and chant here forever in Krishna consciousness. Purport. Haridāsa Thakur's instruction that the prostitute should distribute to the brahmanas all the property she had at home is very significant. Haridāsa Thakur never advised the prostitute to give charity to the so-called Daridra Narayanas, poor Narayanas, or any other such persons. According to Vedic civilization, charity should be given only to the qualified brahmanas. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 1842, Shamo Damastavak Shaucham Chantir Arjamaveva Cha Jnanam Vijnanam Astakyam Brahmakarma Sabhavajam. The Brahminical qualifications are truthfulness, control of the senses and mind, tolerance, simplicity, knowledge, practical application of transcendental knowledge in one's life, and full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Persons engaged in pursuing spiritual understanding have no time to earn their livelihood. They depend completely on the mercy of the Lord, who says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:22 that he personally carries to them all their necessities, yogak achemam baham yaham. The Vedic civilization recommends that one give charity to brahmanas and sannyasis, not to the so-called Daridra Narayanas. Narayana cannot be Daridra, nor can Daridra be Narayana, for these are contradictory terms. Atheistic men invent such concoctions and preach them to fools. But charity should actually be given to brahmanas and sannyasis, because whatever money they get, they should spend for Krishna. Whatever charity one gives to a brahmana goes to Krishna, who says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:27, Yat karoshi, yat ishnashi, yat jahosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat karushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Everything actually belongs to Krishna. But so-called civilized men, unfortunately, think that everything belongs to them. This is the mistake of materialistic civilization. The prostitute, Besha, had earned money by questionable means, and therefore Haridāsa Thakur advised her to distribute to the brahmanas whatever she possessed. When Srila Rupa Goswami retired from family life, he distributed 50% of his income to the brahmanas and Vaishnavas. A brahmana knows what the absolute truth is, and a Vaishnava, knowing the absolute truth, acts on behalf of the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, one earns money by many questionable means. Therefore, at some time, one should retire and distribute whatever one has to the brahmanas and Vaishnavas who engage in devotional service by preaching the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra continuously and render service to the Tulsi plant by watering her and offering prayers to her. In this way you will very soon get the opportunity to be sheltered at the lotus feet of Krishna. And I'm going to stop here because I'm losing my voice, in case you didn't notice. And it's very difficult for me to speak right now. I use it a lot today. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to start tomorrow at verse 137. Hare Krishna. Haridāsa Thakur ki jai. The glories of Haridāsa Thakur ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Okay, let's have some reflections, comments, discussions, and so on.
First is a comment from Bhakta Ben.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "How kind is Lord Chaitanya for repeatedly coming to this prison to show us prisoners a way out. He must be so patient, as the prison can never be emptied."
Absolutely. Absolutely. This prison house is a perfect prison house. There's no bars, there's no guards, breathing over your neck. But we are bound by the modes of nature and our senses. And it's perfect, a perfect prison house. Perfect reformatory prison. Therefore, it takes the perfect reformer, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, to come and deliver us, or send somebody that's capable of doing it. Yes, Krishna is all kind and all perfect in all ways, in every way. So anybody who doesn't surrender to Him and want to give himself to Him is living in a fool's paradise. And 'tis folly to be wise. It's folly to be wise where ignorance is bliss. In total ignorance, people think they're happy. And in total knowledge, people are happy. And everyone else in the middle is suffering like anything. 'Tis folly to be wise where ignorance is bliss. Yes, Lord Chaitanya is so kind. Thank you very much, Bhakta Ben, for that wonderful comment, reflection.
Next is something from Vilas Manjari.
Oh, Vilas Manjari, Hare Krishna.
She says, "Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. It's so nice to be tuning in live again. I have a question about the undeveloped living entities mentioned, who will fill the universe if the whole universe is liberated. Who are or where are these living entities?"
These living entities are in the Brahma-jyoti. And they are, they're Brahma bodies. They're in the spiritual world, but they make up the spiritual sky, and there's lots of them, enough to fill up lots of universes. And it's kind of like there's a queue, to get into the material world, because you can't go back to Godhead unless you serve. And in Brahma-jyoti, there's no service. The soul just has a sense of being eternal. But the knowledge aspect and the ananda aspect are still covered. In the material world, the eternity aspect, the knowledge aspect, and the ananda or pleasure aspect are all covered. And therefore the soul thinks that he can stay forever, even though he can't. He doesn't know everything, although he wants to. And he tries to enjoy himself constantly, but he can't. But those three desires are there in the soul, because that's the soul's made up of those energies, those internal spiritual energies. So therefore, the souls from the Brahmajyoti, they need eventually to do something, to act. And therefore they come to the material world when the time is right. That's where they come from.
There's a comment from Radharaman.
Radharaman, where are you? He's in the next room. Oh, okay. Please.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, so wonderful to hear Antya-līlā directly from you, your servant Radharaman.
Oh God, if I only had a voice, my voice was almost gone tonight. Anyway, thank you very much.
And Vilas Manjari comments, the compassion of Haridāsa Ṭhākura is wonderful. He knew everything being planned, but stayed there just to deliver her.
Absolutely. Unlimited compassion, the Vaishnava, the pure Vaishnava has unlimited compassion.
Bhakta Charlie.
Bhakta Charlie, I missed you. I haven't heard from you for a long time. What's going on?
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Thank you, Bhakta Charlie. Thank you.
And from Stella Music.
Oh, this is Shraddhanjali, Devidasi, the better half of Kalachandji, who I sit on the RRP with. Brilliant person, brilliant scholar and devotee, as is Shraddhanjali.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, happy and blessed New Year.
Thank you very much, and the same to you and all your family.
Another comment from Vilas Manjari. She says, it seems Srila Prabhupada displayed the same compassion, seeing beyond the material condition and giving the holy name and encouragement to all.
Absolutely true, and no one else can do it except for him. Go all over the world and spread Krishna consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness, for the first time in the West. Not possible for ordinary person. Absolutely.
And Bhakta Ben says, I loved to hear of Haridāsa Ṭhākura's transcendental trickery. I wondered if you had any stories of devotees using trickery to give Krishna consciousness to others.
Well, my main story is that Prabhupada came and told us that Krishna tricked you. Because we didn't know what we were doing when we first joined, not actually. I mean, we felt, I guess you could say this is a trick of Krishna, because when a devotee of Prabhupada's caliber, or anyone who's following Prabhupada strictly without ulterior motives, chants Hare Krishna and serves purely without any motive, then it affects the soul who comes in contact with him. So therefore, there's something called, Rupa Goswami calls it, shadow attachment. That means that when a conditioned soul comes in contact with a devotee who's tasting Krishna consciousness to any degree, then they taste something that's reflected from the heart of the devotee. It doesn't actually come from them at first. It's reflected like the moon is reflected light from the sun. And so like that, Prabhupada said, that Krishna tricked us. gave us a taste so we could get out of the material world. But once that happens, and once you get a taste of Krishna consciousness, the Shastra says you can never forget it. And you can never go back to ordinary material life, even if you try. You will not be able to forget the bliss of being Krishna conscious. I know you may have been asking for some practical trick that the devotee did. Nothing comes to my mind immediately, but I'll think about it and I'll try to repeat it later, another time.
And from Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada's books have the answers to all and any of our questions.
Yes.
That is so fascinating. What mercy. When I was a child, I would ask questions and I got vague or no answers, and that was frustrating me, and I knew somewhere in my life someone knew those answers. I am so happy to be here.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Prabhupada tricked us. I guess the best example of how Krishna tricks is Haridāsa. That's the best example of tricking someone into becoming a devotee. In a sense, all the conditioned souls who are heavily conditioned are tricked by, the kirtan party. It's so fun. You dance and you chant, and it's kind of like, it looks like a disco or something, So they get tricked into thinking they're dancing, and then they get the tastes. Or they meet a devotee on the street, never met him before in their lives. They're trying to get him to take a book and give a $5 or something, something for it. And then they get tricked and they get a taste. Their life's never the same. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Radharaman sent a message saying that Daityari Hari asked a question, but I don't see it on here.
Oops, I heard you coming out of the somebody else's phone has just walked in the door. Oops, with a. I heard you coming out of the somebody else's phone has just walked in the door. Oops, with a. Just turn the volume down. What's the question? Where's the question? Daityari Haridāsa, Hare Krishna. Thank you for another amazing. I don't know how it's an amazing reading. My voice doesn't work. Anyway, it's nectar. The sound, the subject matter is nectar. I'm watching myself while I'm talking. That's really, really weird. We often hear Krishna Das Kaviraj explain that Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and those of his intimate associates are infinitely deep like an ocean. It seems like there are many different layers of lessons being taught in each pastime. It's clearly not a very deep realization. It's clearly not a very deep realization on the pastime, but it is fair to say that when hearing of how Haridāsa Ṭhākura deals with the prostitute by giving false promises to her in order to keep her around, just so she could become purified by hearing him chant. Should this be understood as the perfect analogy of how we should deal with our own materialistic mind, which is also described to be like a prostitute? This is the deep answer. Are you ready? Yes. That's the answer. Ignore the mind and keep chanting, and it will go away. That's it. I have to beg indulgence now because I'm losing my voice, and it's painful actually. I've got a little bit of a sore throat. I think I'm coming down with something. So if everyone could please give me their blessings and allow me to retire, I will stop talking now. I thank you so much for all your lovely comments and questions. And yes, the glories of Haridāsa Ṭhākura, they're the best. And the passing away of Haridāsa Ṭhākura, that is the most emotionally surcharged pastime in the whole book. It's amazing. Śrī Caitanya-caritāmrta ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much, everyone. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic. Nectar. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.